Hello Zoomers! Your procedure for our spring lab is going to be slightly different than the procedure of the in-class students. So let me show you what I've sent you home with. Number one is a bag of nuts or washers. You might have some just round flat washers instead of these, and there should be about 10 of those. Those have a mass written on them. So this one, for example, says 69.3, and there should be 10 in here. So on average, we can divide this number, 69.3, by 10, which would mean each of these nuts has a mass of about 6.93 grams. So we will assume that each nut has a mass of 6.93 grams. Second, I sent you home with a bag that has 2 springs in them. When I take those springs out of the bag, I'm going to see that they look about the same, but one of them, if you look very carefully, one of them has where is my camera, has a bit of blue. Like on this one, that has a bit of blue and this one doesn't. So we're going to talk about the plain spring and the blue spring. On your data table, it's going to say plain spring and red spring, and that's just because the students in class do have a red spring. The third thing I gave you was a paper clip, and I pulled this paper clip straight, and at one end, at both ends actually, I put a hook, but at one end that hook is narrower and the other end that hook is fatter. So when we hang these, the skinny end is going to hang from the spring, the fat end is going to catch the washer or the nut. So let's take a look at what we're going to do here. I'm going to take my nuts, just to make them easier to get a hold of, and take them out of the bag, like so. There they are, now they're accessible. Oh, the fourth thing you need is a ruler. And I'm hoping you have your own ruler. I did not send you home with a ruler. If you can't find a ruler at home, then I sent you home with a paper measuring tape that you assembled, and you can always use that. That will work just fine. All right, so here's what we're going to do. First thing we need to do is to measure the length. I'm going to start with my blue spring, is to measure the length of that spring in centimeters. And you want to measure that as exactly as you can. So you're going to hold your spring. This one, for example, looks like it's about, hold it still, 2.8 centimeters. And you'll be recording that in your data table. That would be the length when there is 0 mass hanging on our spring. Then you're going to take your bent paper clip, take one of your washers or nuts, slip it over the skinny end of the paper clip, and it catches on the fat end down there. So now you're going to hold the spring with one hand, hook the paper clip onto it. You'll see it goes up and down, so you can kind of hold it still with your hand. And then you're going to need to take your ruler, and you're going to measure what is the new length of this spring. So this one is now reading about 3.4 centimeters. And I would record that, therefore I have one mass on here, so that must be 6.93 grams. So we'll take that paper clip off. I will carefully add a second nut so that it doesn't fall off. Now I'll hang that from my spring. Kind of hold it steady there. Take my ruler. I'm going to measure the new length. Get my 0 here. This is going to be easier for me to hold this in my right hand. Okay, we'll let it stop wiggling up and down. Looks like now it's going to be about 4.1 for me. So now I have 2 washers on here. Each one is 6.93 grams. So I need to multiply that 6.93 times 2, and that's going to be my new mass that I have hanging on here. So that's, almost 7. It's going to be 13 point something. Then now I will take off my paper clip. I'll slip a third nut over the top, hook it onto my spring. Again, Try to get it to stop wiggling there. Hold it. Then I'm going to take my ruler, measure the length of the spring. I'm going from the bottom of the spring to the top of the spring, not including those rings. And that looks like it's about 5.0 centimeters. And I'm going to record that for, now I have 3 masses on there. Each one is 6.93, so 3 times 6.93. It's almost 3, it's going to be close to 21 grams, but not quite, maybe 20.1 or something grams. And I'd record that in my data table as well as the length. And you're going to continue on until you do all 10 washers or nuts, recording the mass and the length of your spring. That's how your procedure is different from the in-class students. So once you run that entire experiment where you're putting on all your nuts up to the 10th nut for the blue spring, then you will exchange springs. Now you'll use your plain spring and you'll repeat the exact same procedure with your plain spring and record those in our data table. Thanks. Hope this is helpful.